Hey guys, Ghost here Daev'ja with another Destiny 2 Penumbra video. Today we're going to be looking at the exotic duo of Sturm and Drang, or should I say Drang Baroque, as the menagerie Drang is called for some reason. Baroque is pretty much just because it's all bejeweled and has extra gold on it. That's the style thing. It's an adaptive frame hand cannon with a unique Together Forever frame, 300 RPM with the adaptive frame bonuses, and it allows a Drang kill to fully reload Sturm and overflow a bonus bullet into the magazine, dealing 163 on headshot, and that is incredible. Drang now has random rolls, and I got Quick Draw Swashbuckler, which is awesome. Quick Draw allows me to quickly deal with shotgun rushers after landing a headshot with Sturm, and be able to melt them down with Drang, reloading Sturm and giving it an overcharged bullet as well. And Swashbuckler with Bottom Tree Striker allows me to get ×5 Swashbuckler and get Frontal Assault at the same time, making it absolutely melt. It is an incredible duo. For those of you who don't know, Sturm and Drang were a year 1 combo where their entire niche is that kills with Drang fully reload Sturm and give an overcharge bullet, and kills with Sturm fully recharge Drang, which is a really interesting concept, never having to reload either weapon, just having to constantly go between the two of them, and they are both primary, so you never have to worry about having special ammo. It is also important to mention that Sturm has an exotic catalyst that I simply happen to have not had finished as of the recording of this video. I've had it for a long time, but I've never finished it, and it's important to mention that Drang Baroque does not count for finishing the catalyst, because the catalyst asks for 500 kills with Sturm and 500 kills with Drang. Drang Baroque does not count for this, so you're going to have to go ahead and use the year 1 Drang so that you can get the bonuses on your Sturm going ahead with this combo, and I highly recommend it because the catalyst does give a very significant increase to range and handling, which range is always amazing on hand cannons, and handling is very important on 110 hand cannons because they are generally very lacking in the subject. So let's start by talking about Drang. Obviously, Drang is the focus of this video, with Sturm being something that we really cannot leave behind. I don't recommend running Drang without Sturm. There is really no reason to run Drang without Sturm, so let's talk about Drang real quick. Drang, obviously being an adaptive frame 300 RPM sidearm, has a lot of interesting roles. The year 1 one only had Rampage, which didn't really change the time to kill on it whatsoever, but having a Frontal Assault Swashbuckler does give it a lot more damage. It makes it a lot more lenient. You really don't even have to try to get headshots with it, and you're still going to be absolutely melting people, along with it hitting harder at range, which is something that sidearms have always kind of had a lot of trouble with. Sidearms specifically have a lot of hit registration issues at range. You could have your crosser right on people, and sometimes they just do not hit if you are past the range on them, and the range is probably at most 20 meters. That's not an exact number, so don't hold me to it, but if you get the perk Ricochet Rounds as your magazine option, it probably has more range than that. Ricochet Rounds is an incredible perk, giving you more range, more stability, and for whatever reason, making a lot of weapons just feel like they have better hit registration at range, so I highly recommend getting that roll. This is just the one I got early on. Sadly, I missed out on Ricochet Rounds, but I do have Quick Draw Swashbuckler, and that is awesome. Obviously, in the Swashbuckler slot, you can also roll Rampage, just like the year 1 one, and in the Quick Draw slot, you can roll Full Auto Trigger System, and those are probably the 4 perks I would say to look out for the most on this weapon. 5 if you're counting Ricochet Rounds, which I do think is a staple to have. I have a range masterwork, but I didn't fully masterwork it. Probably would have helped me a little bit if I did, but I didn't really feel like wasting the masterwork cores on it when I'm going to be farming for even more of these, because this is a combo that I am very fond of. So we talked about the rolls, but what do I actually think about Drang Baroque? Well, I have to say I'm a big fan of the synergy altogether, because simply using a year 1 Drang in year 2 was incredibly underwhelming, but having different roles and just different stats and just a directly buffed version of Drang does make it feel like it can compete a lot better than a year 1 Drang was able to. But the problem here is I feel like there are a lot of weapons that do Drang's job, but a little bit better. For those of you who don't know, getting kills with any special weapon do overcharge Sturm. Not a full 163 headshot overcharge, but it is more damage than normal. Just doesn't give you the reload, but that's still a fair trade-off if you ask me, especially seeing as using a year 1 Drang just was not worth it. Going into this, we're talking about the purpose of sidearms. The purpose of sidearms is to deal with people in close quarters. You know what other special weapon is energy weapon is incredibly good at dealing with people in close quarters, especially in combo with getting kills with your primary? That's right, it's the Recluse. The Recluse is incredibly powerful. For those of you who do not know right now, the Recluse is absolutely a top tier weapon, and you can run it all the same with Sturm and get all the benefits. Then going into it, let's talk about the other exotic hand cannons that are in the game right now. You have Thorn, The Last Word, Ace of Spades. They're looking like a lot of reasons to not run Sturm and Drang. However, Sturm and Drang, I do believe, are both still viable. They're both incredibly strong. Getting a 2-tap at incredibly far ranges with Sturm after getting a single Drang kill is a very fair trade-off to simply just running a constant meta loadout, or along with it is something that is still very potent and powerful that can be ran even in competitive, just to shake things up if you don't want to constantly be using the same thing. You can say with just about any loadout, oh, just throw Recluse on it, and it's a better loadout. So instead of doing that, you can be like, oh, I could run Sturm and Drang, and it's a completely different feeling, and it might even catch some people off guard. Having it with Frontal Assault and being able to absolutely melt people when you have Frontal Assault and Swashbuckler ×5 is also a fair trade-off. It doesn't have the hit registration or the fire rate of Recluse, but it does have very similar time to kills because it absolutely melts people, especially if under pressure after getting that melee kill, you're able to still land headshots with it. It will absolutely destroy people. Along with, we have to look at the very real possibility that at some point in the future we're going to see more nerfs. I know nerfs are something the community really doesn't want to talk about, but there's something that are going to happen, and instead of just getting sad about them and being like, oh, I can't use this anymore, it's best to look at it in a way of, okay, what's going to be relevant now? What is going to be the new meta? What weapons are going to be potent? What are going to be strong? What can I catch people off guard with? And I do think that if we see a nerf to Recluse or a nerf to any of the exotic hand cannons, that Sturm and Drang are directly buffed by that. There is more reason to run them than ever after that, and that means that they might actually be worth it. If you have a full auto Swashbuckler or full auto Rampage roll or Quick Draw or whatever, point is, if you have a really good roll of Drang and you have the Catalyst for Sturm, you will be able to make them work. They are not by any means weak weapons, but they are weapons that were absolutely left in the past when we got newer and flashier things. People just stopped thinking about them, even though you do 163 to the head with an overcharged Sturm bullet. That is incredible. Sturm is terrifying. And the Catalyst, which I don't have in this video, gives it an increased range, meaning you can hit people for that 163 at disgusting, absolutely disgusting ranges. Obviously, you still won't be able to duel things like in close quarters, duel things like the last word, but if you play your ranges, you can absolutely play against the last word. And that is another point. Drang cannot really duel the last word. I do not recommend trying to duel the last word with Drang, but if you're caught in a situation where you have to, may the odds be ever in your favor, because if they whiff all their shots or you AD perfectly, you might actually be able to make it out of there with the kill, get the Sturm overcharge, and take down one of their teammates immediately after. So while I don't think in the current state of the game this is an incredibly meta loadout, I don't think it's a bad loadout at all. In fact, I'm probably going to be taking this into competitive when I decide to grind for the Revoker, because I think it's a fun loadout, I think it's unique, and I really want to mess around with it in a more serious environment. I might get a different role before then, one with ricochet rounds or fully masterwork at the very least, but overall, it is incredibly exciting. As of the filming of this video, I now have the Sturm Catalyst finished as well, so I'm not going to be lacking on the handling or the range that I am missing in this video, along with making orbs on kill, so just direct buffs. So happy that Drang came back in year 2, because that means I get to revisit weapons that I left behind in year 1, such as Sturm, and I get to realize that these weapons are kind of being slept on. Don't get me wrong, I've had tons of people tell me, and I've heard tons of people say that Sturm is really good right now, and the only thing holding it back is Drang. Along with mention, in this video, I was focusing on using Drang over Sturm. I still use Sturm quite a bit, but I was using Drang as the primary. I highly recommend playing this duo with Sturm as the primary, because if you use Sturm as the primary and simply use Drang in close quarters combat, you will find so much more success with this weapon, and I already found so much success with it. So if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, do whatever you want, follow me on any of my social media, and thank you so much for watching.